Hey, we're only about 7 minutes late.
I
Not
don't know
bad for
what
live.
happened.
It's all good.
Okay.
How are you?
I think the internet's got COVID-19 today. Holy
It very
cow.
well may. Welcome to live broadcasting and the internet. And surprised we didn't break the internet with all these people at home and
Oh,
everything that's been
seriously.
going on.
Yeah, I've been doing my part to try and break it, and so have you, Dewey. We've both
Yeah.
been pretty busy. Yeah.
Um, and it hasn't gotten any slower. It actually seems to be holding up okay, other than
Yeah.
these weird little quirky type things. But I'm also in the live broadcast world, and I know this stuff happens. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump in since we're running a little late. We're looking at tennis facilities opening up around the country. Today, I think Palm Beach County in Florida, the tennis is free for all today. And I know in Atlanta, several of the facilities are open. Some never closed, but some officially reopened this week when the governor lifted the stay at home order for certain businesses, which we don't have to talk about that because it makes me crazy. But I mean, I think what we wanted to focus on this week, Dewey, was the fact that people are going to come back to tennis in their own way, and there's
yeah,
not one size that fits everybody, right?
there
And
certainly
I,
isn't. And, in Texas, it was tennis was one of the things the governor specifically said he was opening up, and that actual order goes into effect May 1st, so Friday, day after tomorrow.
Mhm.
But he was saying, he felt like four people to a court, so doubles was an okay thing. We sat and watched his address live, and as he said, it overrules anything any other municipality, so a county or local
Mm,
municipality has in place, that his order rules supreme. So it's
interesting.
back to tennis, and one of the healthy things, it might be a growth for the sport if it's one of the things that everybody knows they can do. Maybe we'll
Right.
see a
Yeah, maybe we'll
resurgence.
get some new people playing, but I mean, it's interesting because the club I belong to here in Southern California actually sent out a survey yesterday as they start thinking about how they're going to reopen and what they need to do to make people feel comfortable. And I thought it was kind of a nice step to see the club owners take to poll the membership and get a feel for what people feel comfortable with as the club does open. And they've maintained all their staff through all of this. They've continued to pay staff and have given members the option to pay dues or not pay dues during this time. But one of the questions that was asked had to do with where hand sanitizer needed to be and about the use of towels, because the club, when you walk in the front door after you kind of flash your little membership thing on the scanner, there's a stack of towels that people can take to use out on the courts and whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what things like that are in place and what things they kind of do away with temporarily. And one of the things is, keeping the locker rooms closed, keeping the little grill closed. And yeah, I mean, one of the questions they asked, which I thought was interesting, and you and I can talk about this, is will you feel comfortable coming back, or what has to happen for you to feel comfortable coming back to the club? And I suspect they're going to get a lot of different answers to that.
I have a personal opinion, and I preface it by saying my libertarian views are that what is right for me is not right for doesn't need to be right for anyone else, and I'm good with people having their own views on things, and I'm not going to sit and argue with people about it at this point in time. I
Oh, come on.
at a young age, I was a rule breaker. If there was a rule, I would break it. The easiest way to get me to do something was to tell me I couldn't. So that I lived my teenage years very much like that, and into my 20s, I am now very much a rule follower. And so the day they said shelter in place, stay at home, I stayed at home. I haven't been on a court since then. And
Yeah.
while I may get back on the court, it will certainly not be until day after tomorrow. So I'm not going on the court today, and I am not going to be where I could be on the court tomorrow. So, maybe Friday, but probably not. I'm only doing private lessons, and I will be very safe. I felt safe when I stopped being on the court. The only reason I stopped was because the general consensus for the community was we needed to stay home.
Right.
So I may go on the court, but that's just because, people have to work. People have to earn a living. Many of us are not in a situation where we're doing anything other than living paycheck to paycheck, and we need a paycheck. And so I understand where people are making those decisions. I was safe prior to that, and I will be safe going back out there now. I hope everybody else is. I hope that your club doesn't let people take those towels out. I hope that ATP and WTA Tour never let another ball kid touch a towel.
Oh gosh.
I've long felt
seriously,
like they were
right?
the nastiest things in the world. I wouldn't have wanted my kid doing it. So I guess that's kind of where I come down on some of it anyways, or to preface our discussion with, that's me personally.
Yeah, and my personal view is I'm not ready to go back on the court yet. I don't believe that we have a way to keep it sanitary. So for me, I'm not playing. I'm finding other ways to be outside. I'm lucky enough to live in a place where I can walk outside, take my dog out, and get my exercise. I do yoga every day at home. And so I feel like I'm staying active and fit, and I feel good about that. I posted something yesterday on our Facebook page. Kroger, the Kroger company, which out here is Ralph's, has shared its blueprint for staying safe and sanitary during COVID-19. And they shared a lot of their announcements that they do over their loudspeakers and signage that they're using in the stores. And so I posted that on the Parenting Aces Facebook page in hopes that club owners and facility managers would see that and maybe take a note from what they've done to put some effort into making sure that the signage is there, that the reminders are there, and that the safe practices are in place. So for those of you who do feel comfortable going back out, that you aren't exposed or put at risk. So, we'll see. I'm just not there yet. I'm still, this bug has me a little freaked out.
I'm probably not fully there. I'm ready to jump back in and do one-on-ones because I know that I will be safe. I'm somebody who believes that if I get it, it very well may do long-term damage, including kill me. And so I'm looking at one-on-one. I know I can be safe. I know I can be distant. I know the handling of balls and all of that. But I'm not ready for group things, and that will largely probably happen the middle of May for me, is what I'm looking at. I'm looking to see what happens with all of these states that are opening up, and does that curve, which had somewhat plateaued, right? We didn't see a peak and have it go down. It's pretty much plateaued. We're still seeing across the U.S. between 1,000 and 2,000 people per day pass away from this virus. And if that number doesn't continue to plateau and probably hopefully go down, and it takes that turn back north again, I think I'll be finding ways to earn a living indoors in this little space that
in your bubble
at the moment, in my bubble.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's a matter of, just like any other disease that's out there, if I personally feel comfortable that if I catch this, I'm not going to die from it, and I'm not going to have permanent long-term damage from it, whether it's lung damage or circulatory damage or whatever else, then I'll feel comfortable going back out and doing what I want to do. But right now, I'm not confident that that's the case, that if, God forbid, I did catch it, I'm not confident that I would emerge on the other side of it the same as I am right now. And that's the marker for me. Like you said, everybody has to make their own decision around this, and I get that. And certainly as our leaders lighten up the rules, loosen up the rules, it's up to the individuals to make those choices. But my personal choice is, until I'm confident that if I catch it, I'll be fine, I'm not going out. We just don't know enough about this thing yet. It's still, every day it seems they're reporting new symptoms, new long-term effects from it. It's scary to me.
I think we all have to hope, right? We all hope for the best. We all hope that we did something which we will never know, which is we were overly cautious and we shut things down more than they needed to be. And as we open back up, we might realize that we're at an okay place right now. As a sport, I think tennis wants to come back and wants to make a resurgence. I saw one of the interviews that you did last week, I think last Thursday, with Turhan Burnett, and it was still unclear where some of the tournament things were going. So when the competition structure is going to open back up, and I know from a junior tennis perspective, we're talking about that beginning of June really being when all the qualifying events happen. It kind of sets up the summer season for those that are going to play at the national level or hope to and want to break through they're on the bubble. And so those events which happen the beginning of June will set up their summers, and it's still kind of up in the air whether those things are going to happen or not.
Well, and same with the ITA summer circuit. When I chatted with Tim Russell last week, as of now, they're still on the calendar, those summer circuit events. And he even said, if the college campuses aren't open to hold those events, they'll find other places to hold them if necessary. But as of now, those events are still on the calendar. As of now, clay courts is still on the calendar. Kalamazoo and San Diego are still on the calendar. But the sectional qualifiers have mostly all been canceled. So it'll be interesting to see, if they do keep those big national level ones on the calendar, how do kids qualify to get in if they are on that ranking bubble, as you said?
So I guess if they are going to play, I'm somewhat glad that the kids are going to start practicing now, and many of them have been practicing all along, let's be honest about it. But those that haven't, I'm glad that they're starting to get back on. We have one of our strength and conditioning coaches sent out some information which came from Mark Kovacs for the things to be looking at and the injuries that we have to be watching out for, and how much should kids be going right now versus when will they be able to be at full speed. And that's going to be a ramping up. So getting kids moving slowly, and maybe it's a good thing that most places will start with one-on-ones or semi-private lessons and then move towards more group things and practice matches over a period of time, so that we're not seeing a lot of those injuries, the early season injuries, from kids really thinking, well, I've been exercising all this time, right? Most people have been being sent on or home workout kind of things for the physical part of it, and they're going to jump back on the court saying, well, I'm more physically fit, but the reality is they're not used to all the stops and starts and reactions and have the dissociative properties down, and
the mental stress, which causes exhaustion and in a different way. But also for people that live in very warm climates, they may not have had that gradual ramp up to getting used to the heat and humidity, depending on where you live, that typically happens as we transition from spring to summer. And so that's going to be a big issue, making sure these kids are hydrating properly, and maybe even having to overcompensate a bit because their bodies aren't used to the heat and humidity and haven't had that gradual buildup that they typically have. So I think there are going to be a lot of issues that we need to be concerned with. You're laughing.
So I am laughing because, having been a coach in Georgia, North Carolina, or Texas since 1993. We were always hoping that at clay courts, you caught one of those kids from one of the northern climates. They weren't used to the heat and they melted away, right? So everybody's having to deal with that a little bit at this point in time. So it's leveled the playing field.
For sure.
Because that was always a big advantage if you lived in the South and you caught one of those kids from Michigan or something.
Right.
You were used to the climate and they weren't, and you could tell them because they were looked like a bunch of beached whales came to Florida for those tournaments.
I mean, there's a lot to think about as we get back out there, and kind of the theme of this week's episode is one size doesn't fit all, and I think that this is going to be a time for coaches, for parents, for tennis directors, and for the kids themselves to really think about a plan of action as they get back out there. It can't just be haphazard. You can't just go from 0 to 60. There has to be a gradual ramp up as we get back out there, both from a fitness perspective, an injury prevention perspective, a mental perspective, and overall just a safety perspective. We don't want people going out and getting hurt or getting sick. And so I think it's going to be an interesting time as we watch how different facilities do things. Certainly, I'm already hearing about people out playing doubles. And like you said, your club and your governor have said that doubles is okay. Up to 4 people on a court is okay. Personally, no, that ain't happening for me.
We've had clients say that they weren't comfortable with 4 on a court, and some have even said 3 on a court is too many at this point in time. So you're right, there is a level of comfort will differ from one person to the other. That whole one size doesn't fit all.
And I think it's important that coaches and directors of tennis acknowledge that and respect the individual's space where they are in time, in terms of how they're thinking about all of this. I think it's really, really important that we not force somebody to do something that they're not comfortable with, but at the same time, we have to balance that with a feeling of paranoia maybe, which is a little bit of where I'm coming from. So it's going to be a challenge, but I get that tennis is an opportunity. I mean, certainly golf has thrived during this time because you can be on a golf course all by your lonesome and, continue to play.
Anything, your own ball, your own club, never have to touch anything that somebody else has touched. Yep.
That's exactly right. And tennis is kind of the next sport in terms of that, in terms of being able to maintain distance and all of that. But that doesn't mean that we stop worrying about washing our hands or that we stop worrying about what we're touching and then touching our face. We have to be cognizant of that. It doesn't mean we stop social distancing in terms of, being at least 6 feet apart from the other person. So I hope that everybody can kind of find their comfort zone in all of this, the size that fits them properly, and find a way back out to engage in tennis in some way, shape, or form that feels comfortable for them. And in the meantime, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Yeah, we had a bunch of little fires and somebody took a great big wet tarp and threw it over everything and shut everything down because it was the only thing we had at that point in time, that we had a virus that was and still is very virulent that nobody has any immunity to, and we had to figure out how to put a hold on it as best we could at that point in time. I think over that period of time, or at least I hope, some really smart people have really been digging in to figure out how we can be a little bit more surgical in our approach to it instead of needing to just douse the whole thing and shut everything down. And I also know that if I'm a scientist or I'm a physician, I have to sound an alarm bell. If I were that person sitting on a mountaintop and I could see across the valley and know that there was a rock slide or an avalanche or something that was going to hit a whole group of people, I would be shouting at the top of my lungs. And, maybe by chance it was off and maybe I didn't see it right and it wouldn't have hit them, or they pause on their own and take a break and it goes by them, or they decide that they're going to go faster and it goes behind them. And so it didn't hit them and it was a false alarm, so to speak. I'm still good with the fact that I shouted, and I'm glad that the scientists and physicians and everything else shouted that, this is that. And I wish that they had shouted sooner, right? Everything that I'm hearing that I believe says the alarm bells should have been sounded sooner, and that's what people are looking at. What are the systems in place to sound it sooner? And I hope that the reopening includes that how do we see those little hot spots which pop up and then be able to do contact tracing.
For sure.
That's part of the plan. I know at Austin Tennis Academy is we'll know what kids and what coaches everybody has been in contact with, so that let's be honest, when someone becomes ill, that we can do a good job of contact tracing to help those people isolate.
And I just want to say, and I hate talking politics, but this isn't a political issue, in my opinion. This virus doesn't care what your political leanings are, and I'm a lot bit over the Democrat versus Republican blame game that keeps happening. Let's just work together and get past this. This is an issue that's affecting every single human being on the planet right now. There's nobody in the world that hasn't been impacted in some way, shape, or form. So let's just work together as humans and do what we need to do to stay safe and stay healthy and get this thing under control so that we can create our new normal and get back to work.
Yeah, as much as we broadcast to YouTube and to Facebook, and that's been not real good for our society. There are many, many friends. I got into it a little bit with one of my friends today on social media, and never would have known that our opinions varied as much as they do had it not been for Facebook, right? And so it hasn't been a good thing. It's been a divisive force.
Yes.
And so, most people just go be friends with somebody. If you are friends with them and you can not know what their political leanings are, of an age and of a place where it was taught to me that, you don't discuss politics in social gathering. It's just, well, we kind of blew past that. So it's everywhere. But again, I just want to say that I just want everybody to stay healthy, figure out what feels good for you and your family. And as the rules are loosened, as the stay-at-home orders are released, do what you feel safe doing. I'm going to do what I feel safe doing, and let's not judge each other based on that. Let's just do what we're comfortable with, and hopefully we all avoid getting sick from this thing and emerge on the other side a healthier community overall and practicing things that we should have been doing all along, like washing our hands. That's one of those that's like, weren't we supposed to be always washing our hands all the time? But oh well, now we've learned our hard lesson. So let's take this forward and let's get back out there in a safe way. And I hope everybody stays well. Yeah, I'm about to feel weird because I was one of the ones interviewing other people in other countries of what it looked like to close down. And now people are going to be looking to me, being in Texas and being a tennis coach, of what's it like being one of the first ones to have back at it again. So my new reality. Yeah. I hope you stay safe. And
thank you.
your loved ones are safe and you get to spend some time with them. Because I know
Yeah.
that's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. And same to you. And for those of you watching, have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Tennis Takeaways.
See ya.